Hello everyone, ex-Wallkill Bethelite here. And you know what the solution to the shunning and the disfellowshipping and the effects of that sort of thing, the solution to that for the victims of sexual misconduct within Watchtower, within the members of the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses. The solution to all that shunning in your family and friends not talking to you is the settlement for the suffering Watchtower has put upon you. Let's say that again. The solution to the shunning, the disfellowshipping, or not being spoken to by your family and your friends, the solution to that, getting them to talk to you, may be the settlement that legally you have a right to for the actual injustices that have gone on in Watchtower. When you get that money from the settlement, we're not talking about whether or not this is a solution to the pedophilia in Watchtower. We're talking about, is it the solution to the shunning? You get all that money. You think your relatives aren't going to talk to you then? You think your friends aren't going to talk to you then? Keep in mind, a lot of these people are uneducated. Keep in mind, a lot of these people don't have anything. So when they run into problems and issues and trouble and they need something, well, you got all the millions of dollars from Watchtower from the lawsuit. Well, they're going to talk to you then. How many celebrities that used to be Jehovah's Witnesses that are rich now, how many of them are going through the shunning? How many of them, go through the situations where their family isn't talking to them? Think about Prince. While he was alive, great musician, talent through the roof. But according to Jehovah's Witnesses, none of this stuff matters. He wasn't supposed to be doing all that stuff. He was supposed to be working a job that allowed him time to pioneer. When he was younger, he should have been going to Bethel. He shouldn't have been doing none of that stuff, making these videos and going on tour, traveling, playing music, and all those sorts of things. Marrying anyone that wasn't Jehovah. Do you think that Prince, with all his money, was ever counseled about any of those sorts of things? So the principles within Jehovah's Witnesses, they matter only if you don't have money. Once you have money, they're not going to say anything to you. When Michael Jackson is put in connection with Watchtower, Jehovah's Witnesses they love to think that he was ever a part of that. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what his lifestyle was. If they're famous, if they got money, they'll talk to you then. So it would be very interesting to see what would happen to a person who has suffered at the hands of Watchtower. And then now that the law allows for some relief if a person was to reach out and take some of that relief in the form of settlement with regards to all the pedophilia, sexual misconduct that's been going on with Watchtower, the elders that have been inappropriate, and they were to receive money, tons of money. The people who would ordinarily not speak to you, if you were outside of the organization without any money, I bet you they would probably speak to you or be a lot more willing to speak to you if you had $1 million in your pocket because of that settlement. Yeah, see, Jehovah's Witnesses, your relatives that won't speak, they'd speak to you in regards to that settlement money. See, one of them needs another van for a field service vehicle. Yeah, they speak to you then. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. You got Serena Williams. You got all these people who talk about Watchtower as if they're members, and they're allowed to do so because they've got money and they've got fame. But none of these people actually live the teachings. They're not living like the end of the world is very likely tomorrow. They're building careers, music careers, athletic careers, playing tennis with Serena Williams, unbelievable talent. But playing tennis isn't really that relevant with regards to the world coming to an end possibly tomorrow, according to Jehovah's Witnesses and their teachings, and needing to get as many people to be a part of Watchtower as possible before God kills them all in the Battle of Armageddon. According to the whole teaching of Watchtower, playing tennis has nothing to do with none of that. So why aren't they getting counseled? Why are they allowed to speak about things? Why aren't they all disfellowshipped and shunned? Any of their relatives or cousins or friends that were JW, why are any of them talking to them? Because they got money. Watchtower, Jehovah's Witnesses, they're just as corrupt as anyone else. It all changes when they can benefit from you. So as sick as it is, as sick and twisted as it is, I want you to comment down below and tell me if you don't believe it. Anyone who did become a millionaire and because of, they went and sued Watchtower because of all that stuff that's going on, the things that happened to them. They reached out for justice in regards to the injustices that has been going on. Let's see if some of those injustices don't just turn around if they start to receive money as compensation. Those relatives, they're not going to sit idly by where you have a nice house, nice car, and financial security to a certain extent. Think about it. And you have all these, another topic to a certain extent, these pedophiles that are in Watchtower. And you think, what would Jehovah do? Think about the Old Testament. Think about what would Jehovah do if Watchtower really was the one and only organization representing him. You remember when one person had an idol? It's a little statue from my understanding. One person, think about the Old Testament, ancient days of Israel, one person had an idol and it upset God to the highest extent. We know the accurate pronunciation of the name isn't Jehovah. So I'll just say God or Yahweh was extremely angry because one person had an idol and I guess they buried it somewhere. What do you think God would think if we're not dealing with a statue or an idol? We're dealing with people that full on have sexual thoughts with kids. Weird stuff. Like they not even the thoughts, they touched kids. And they're all within the organization. Tell me if I'm lying. In the Old Testament, half the people in these kingdom halls would be drug out and stoned. If we were living in Bible times right now and Watchtower existed in Bible times in the Old Testament, there would be very few rocks left in the nation of Israel, because all of these pedophiles would be stoned, and the elders who sat there in front of a pedophile or someone who could very possibly be a pedophile and didn't report it, wasn't incensed enough to, we're reporting this. I don't care if you said you did it or not. Something's going on. We're reporting this. The elders, even though they didn't physically touch the kid, they're sitting there talking with pedophiles and letting them loose. The pedophiles, all those elders would have been dragged out of halls and they would have been stoned to death. There would be very few pedophiles in the nation of Israel, and there would be very few rocks. There'd be a shortage of stones, and there'd be a shortage of pedophiles. Because all the elders that let it happen, and all the pedophiles that took place in it, part in it. In Bible times, these people would be dead. You remember Joshua and the pile of heads that he stacked up. Like, yeah, these weren't the people to mess around with. So Watchtower, in comparing itself to the nation of Israel and calling itself spiritual Israel and things like that, they don't really want that. What they want is people to believe that they are and to keep going around passing out Watchtower so they can bring in more people and bring in more money. But if they were really those people and God was really dealing with them like he would be dealing with his only people, these pedophiles would have been dead. Once God got that incensed, it didn't matter if they were mentally disturbed or not. Drag them out. He did not like impurities, especially to that extent, amongst his people. Drag them out so that they could be stoned is what would be happening right now. Watchtower wouldn't like that. Watchtower doesn't really want to be God's true people because half of them would be dead. Think about it. Anybody that's read the Old Testament, tell me this is not the truth. Half of them would be dead, if not all of them, in regards to using God's name in a way that it may not be using God's name in a way that would bring reproach. So think about Watchtower using, if they actually knew God's name, and they're using God's name and they're saying God is behind us. And they then go about letting pedophilia run loose within Watchtower for hundreds of years. They let pedophilia run loose within Watchtower. And you got the whole Australia having royal commissions and Australia having to step in and try to clean up this mess of pedophiles they got running all through Watchtower. What would that do to God's name then, that is now in connection with a bunch of people that can't control pedophiles? God's name would then be connected with that, which would have incensed God, which would, all these kingdom halls would be burning right now. And all the JWs, it don't matter how retarded they are. It doesn't matter how stupid they are. It doesn't matter how sheltered they are. It doesn't matter how programmed they are. They would all be dead because God did not play when it came to purity and when it came to bringing reproach. So covering things up doesn't work. God wasn't really so much concerned in the Old Testament that people would just know about it. Well, you guys can have idols as long as everybody doesn't know about it. Once people know about it, then I can. No, he actually cared about the purity. His name wasn't going to have reproach because there wasn't going to be nobody doing stuff they shouldn't be doing. If they're going to be in connection with God's chosen people. If they wanted to have that name attached to them, then if they went and did something out the way, then they very well may have had stones attached to them. So think about that. Do Jehovah's Witnesses really want to be God's chosen people, talking about the end of the world coming in 1975, talking about the generation of 1914 will be the generation that'll never pass away? Like, they think this stuff is just no big deal. God would have wiped the floor with these idiots a long time ago. There wouldn't have been a group with that name back then. They like to think that there was a such thing as Jehovah's Witnesses back in Bible times. If they did exist, they'd be dead. Read the Old Testament. Did God care if somebody was stupid? You went out and you brought reproach on God's name. Fire was coming down out of heaven. The ground was opening up so that you could fall in and be buried alive. It wasn't just really intelligent people that had this happen to them because, well, God held them to a higher standard. And then the people that were just indoctrinated and stupid, they could do whatever they wanted. No, they were gone too. So if the Kingdom Halls and Jehovah's Witnesses were living in Bible times, it'd be a lot of dead elders. It'd be stonings all the time. It'd be a lot of dead pedophiles. And I'd actually like to live in that, actually. To be 100% honest, I'd like to live in Old Testament times with Watchtower in existence. Because then they wouldn't be able to just do whatever they wanted. Toni Morris going to the liquor store, buying all kind of alcohol and filling a cart full of alcohol, and Jehovah's Witnesses just don't care. As long as we get to be called special and we get to be called Jehovah's Witnesses, we get to be told that we're the only ones with the truth and we feel special. We don't care if our leaders are alcoholics. We don't care if they make up predictions and none of them are true. 75, generation of 1914, we go on and on. We don't care about Beth. We don't care about anything. God would have cared and they would all have been put to death. So comment down below. Let me know what you think about all of this. Tell me if you think in Bible times, if Jehovah's Witnesses really want to be held to that standard as the one true organization, if we want to compare them to the nation of Israel, half these pedophile loving elders, and they'd all be dead. No, they don't want to live at that time. And half these people who just want to be puffed up with pride, we're Jehovah's Witnesses. We knock on doors and we tell people things that only us know the truth about the truth. No matter how dumb they are to actually believe the things that they believe, they would have been done away with. Comment down below. Let me know if you think I'm lying. And if we can read the Old Testament and just see what would have happened. So 937-789-4029. We can read the Old Testament, put Jehovah's Witnesses in the place of the people we read about, and see how well they would have fared. 937-789-4029. Ex Wallkill Bethelite signing out.